Welcome back to Boom and Bust. My guest is Bradlee Whidden. He is a senior policy analyst at the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Bradlee, talking about comparative tax rates and whatnot. I guess the more general question is these higher tax burdens are having a distinct impact on Canada's ability to compete at a macro level. And so, can you talk a little bit about the lack of ability to compete, competitiveness, productivity, those kinds of issues, and how this intersects with your research?
Absolutely. We're in a productivity crisis right now, according to the Bank of Canada. That means that the economy is not producing as many goods and services that our residents need and want, anything from food and housing units all the way to dentist appointments. So we need to increase our productivity, and the best way to do that is to ensure that business owners who are responsible for the bulk, small business owners who are responsible for the bulk of Canada's private sector employment, have the resources to make those productivity
Yeah.
enhancing investments, invest in machinery and equipment, hire new workers, expand their business. So we need to, make sure that, they're not being taxed too much so they can actually make those productivity enhancing investments.
Yeah, I think that's the key point. You just nailed it. That a small business has a choice to make, and every dollar that is spent on incremental tax increases means they can't reinvest in the productivity of their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we've heard from business owners across the country too, is that, they want to grow, they want to expand, they want to, eventually become a medium-sized business or maybe even a large business. But they're being squeezed by cost constraints from many different sides, but largely government taxes, which we have direct control over.
Are you getting, you say you've had those conversations with Canadian small businesses. That's what the Canadian Federation of Independent Business does in part. So tell us a little bit more about what you're hearing from Canadian small businesses.
Well, to be honest, they're feeling squeezed, and they don't feel supported, that their needs are supported or recognized by by Canadian governments at all levels. Some provinces are better than others. For example, Manitoba has a 0% small business tax rate. That's the lowest in Canada. So, Manitoba does a lot better in this report as a result of that. And we have heard from Manitoba small businesses that that 0% tax rate is extremely helpful in helping them grow their business. But again, even with that 0% tax rate, there's still the 9% federal rate. And in most of these provinces, the rate's much higher than that.
So how did that come to pass in Manitoba? Is this a recent thing or is it a long-standing thing that they don't have that tax?
Well, it's a little bit of a legal nuance. They have it, but it's set to 0%. And it's been set that way, I want to say, for at least the last decade.
Okay.
And it's been big success. Saskatchewan also recently temporarily reduced their rate to 0% during the pandemic as an assistance to small businesses, but then raised it back up to 1%.
Okay.
So Saskatchewan is also, by Canadian standards, quite a low tax um, jurisdiction. But as I said, even those two provinces, that's only putting them on par with, many US states that don't have income taxes at all. And it still leaves out the federal rate that pushes those provinces well above the American average, unfortunately.
Well, and that's the thing too. The provinces can do what they can, and even municipalities, but the federal rate overhangs everything, right?
Exactly. And, that's what's tricky for a lot of these provinces. The province has done just about as much as we can expect. There's a lot of things they still can do. We'd like to see Manitoba raise their small business tax rate threshold. Every province should be doing that and making sure that the cutoff for that small business tax rate is indexed to inflation.
Mm.
They originally implemented that 500,000 threshold several years ago when the cumulative inflation rate was much lower and hasn't been raised since. So there are things that the provinces can do, but again, a lot of the problem here, as you said, really lies with the federal government, and just the amount of payroll and income taxes that they are responsible for.
Yeah, so just so people understand, when you say that, you mean that the minimum tax rate is the rate below which, in terms of income or revenue, that they don't pay any tax at all.
In Manitoba's case, yes.
Yeah.
What I'm saying with the threshold is that below a certain amount, usually it's 500,000 in business net income, the business owners will pay the small business tax rate. Above that threshold, at that point, it kicks up into the higher general corporate income tax rate.
Got it. All right, Bradlee, we're going to take another brief break. We'll be back with you after these important messages.